Okay, so probably the biggest thing I've learned is I'm going to stop resorting to Tubi to watch films for the first time and then review. Because this is a decent sounding horror slasher that takes place on New Year's Eve, but it's one of the worst films that I've seen this month. Guaranteed, probably the worst. And the worst I've seen in a long time, and the ending of this film solidified that. But here we're here to talk about the good. And what's good about this film? There's one kill in particular that is really well done, and the practical effects on it are superb, and the amount of gore in that specific kill is superb. And there should have been way more kills like that in this film, but there weren't. And this was the first kill of the film. Not the first kill of the film, but like the first main kill of the film, you could say, non-throwaway kill kind of thing. And then that was it. And then the rest of the film, all around this really really well done kill, is just mediocre at best. You even get a cast that's not, well, it's mostly unknown, but you got William Baldwin in here, who is Alec Baldwin's brother, and is I've seen before in The Squid and the Whale. He had a minor role in The Squid and the Whale, playing a guy named Ivan, I believe. And he also popped up in, I believe, season 2 of The Purge. It could have been season 1, but I think he was in season 2 of The Purge. But he literally looks like, what do you call that? A deep fake of Alec Baldwin. He literally looks like Alec Baldwin to a T. It's kind of funny. Maybe a little bit younger, but they look like twins, straight up. But so yeah, this is a film that takes place in New Year's Eve, and basically it's about these kids who decide to party in this lodge, this ski lodge, which is weird because this whole film sold me as if it's gonna be like taking place on this like ski resort kind of thing, but there's no snow at all in this whole film, and there's no like feeling of winter even. You get like mountain and forest areas, and you get a lodge, of course, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a very snowy setting, which I thought it was going to be. But anyways, this is a small town, and these kids decide to go party at this lodge. They're all immature as shit. You get a bunch of porn star looking girls and frat douche looking dudes, and put them together in a log cabin, and they're just, drinking away. There's this guy named Richie who is by far the most annoying character I've seen in a movie ever. You get your stereotypical douchey drunk guys, but this guy is just cranked to 11. I mean, he's always doing the whole damn, wow, oh, like burn thing, and it goes on forever. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is a scene too that involves another party and another whole group of characters partying away at some other location, and then your villains of the film come in and wreak havoc on this party, and it turns into this whole strobe scene where it's just this white light. You can't see anything. It's blinding completely. This goes on for like a minute and a half, to the point where I had to shut my eyes because I can't stand strobe lights. And you can't see anything going on screen anyway. But these these kids again are just being murdered and slaughtered while this strobe's going off, and it's the most annoying, aggravating thing ever that lasts way too long. So yeah, this film just it didn't work. It could have been a so bad it's good slasher, but it just didn't hit the mark for me. I don't think I did a review wearing this sweater at all this month, which is kind of funny. So if this is the only video that I did in December wearing an actual ugly Christmas sweater, that's gonna be a little bit ironic, but that's a little tidbit outside of the point and outside of the review. So the film starts off. There's this couple that's murdered in the woods. The man is about to propose to the woman, and then a killer comes and attacks them, and they give some of the most horrendous performances ever. The dude is killed, and the woman runs off before the credits roll. And then you're introduced to William Baldwin's character, Mr. Walters, and he owns this shop of some kind where one of the lead girls in the film, Sophie, works at. And Sophie's kind of the one puts this party together. She's more of the good girl. She's more of the girl you kind of root for. She's having troubles with this guy named Michael, and they have like a falling out because Michael ran off to some, I think, California or something like that for a while, and that's what kind of put them on a break or a breakup, or whatever you want to call it. You can tell how much these characters are memorable or how much I care about them. But yeah, and then they go off to this cabin. You're introduced to this sheriff of the town. He's played by this guy named he's not a really well known actor, but I think it's I forget his name already. I forget the actor's name, but this guy, he looks like he's in a rock band. I thought he would be some kind of musician, and when I looked him up, he is. But he plays Sheriff Wyatt in this film, and this guy looks nothing like a sheriff. This guy looks more like, a band member of Alice Cooper or something like that. He has like long black hair. He's never in a uniform. He's just the sheriff because he's the sheriff, I guess. This guy's just in regular clothes all the time. He looks like he's from a washed up band, and he's named Sheriff Wyatt. And there's even like a scene at the end of the film, terrible ending by the way, where he comes in with the rest of the police squad, and everybody's in uniform but him, and he's still not in uniform. So this whole sheriff of the town, throughout the whole film, is not wearing uniform and not acting like a sheriff whatsoever. There's a scene where I think another police officer of the town is having this conversation with one of the killers in the forest because apparently there's a storm coming too, so these kids are warned not to stay in this cabin or this lodge and just get out of there because there's a massive storm that's gonna be dangerous to especially the mountain areas. And this cop encounters this one of the killers in the forest, but for some reason he's standing literally directly in front of him, and doesn't realize that this guy has a full on, mask over his face. Excuse me. That looks like something out of any horror movie, and he's talking to him normally. This is after discovering a dead animal. By the way, he discovers this dead animal completely slaughtered in the middle of this forest, and it's smelling and everything, and then he sees this guy. He's like, oh, you better take your trophy and get the hell out of here because there's a storm coming. Do you not see him wearing a mask? He's literally right in front of you, and then he flashes his light up, and he's like, can't you hear me talking to you? And then he gets his throat slashed. I guess he was kind of asking for it because when you don't recognize a serial killer standing right in front of you, you've either never seen a horror film in your life or you're smoking the wrong stuff. It's one of those films. It's funny too that the first victim, the kill that was the only good kill in this film and the only reason to watch this film at all, which I would say there's none, but at least there's this redeeming kill. The first victim of this film is the innocent girl, which I've never really seen a horror movie go that direction where like the really innocent, sweet girl who doesn't drink or doesn't party, and everybody's trying to get drunk for the first time, stuff like that, passes out early and goes to sleep, and then the killer comes and makes her the first victim, and like I said, she gets her stomach or something slit open, and then you just get this pour. It looks like a bucket, seriously, on the floor of blood and guts. It's really well done. I really was waiting for them to kill off Richie, the annoying damn character, which he does get a good kill too. He gets a good old slice to the shoulder, and and then hung up afterwards. That was pretty interesting. There's this character named Travis Krenna, who he comes in and he's basically in search of his brother, who's the guy who died at the beginning of the film. This whole character and character introduction and how he's played out reminds me of the remake of Friday the 13th. He comes in looking for his brother. He discovers this party, and then one of the members of the party named Kyle hates this guy right off the bat for absolutely no reason, just like Trent hated the dude in Friday the 13th remake for absolutely no reason, who was looking for his sister, who's been missing for a few days. And even the dialogue with Travis in this film kind of was like, did they copy this from Friday the 13th, this whole idea? Because it really plays out in like the same manner. So this guy's given a hard time. He comes in, he's looking for his brother. Douche ass Ricky is like, who's this guy? This is so weird, man. And then you have this guy Kyle who just is insulting him, telling him to get the hell out of here because he's a party pooper. And if he happens to come back with a better attitude, it's like, well, have sympathy for the guy who just who has a missing brother and everything, just trying to peacefully look for the guy. There is a good sex scene involving Kyle and his girlfriend Vanessa, I think her name was. For a sex scene in a horror slasher movie, it was actually pretty good. So I guess there's two things in this film that redeem it slightly: the first kill and this sex scene with Vanessa and Kyle. Almost full front nudity, not quite, but almost. You definitely see a lot of tits in this film, but not too much full frontal. You get a lot more teasing, which is okay, but I mean, I'd always rather see the full thing, but the way they handled that sex scene was pretty good. And they really choreograph scenes between the main characters fighting the villains that are ridiculous. They make them all in slow motion, and they turn them, I'm not going to fully say into action scenes, but just they're so stupid and they're so dumb and they're so not fitting for a slasher. It's they come out of nowhere. They're all slow, like people will be fighting and then the scene will be slow mo and then it'll go into fast mode again, and none of the villains are memorable either. I mean, you got Bill Moseley in here. I think they just brought him in for name, really. He's not even in the movie for too long. He gets killed midway through and he's in like two moments in the film. One moment in particular where he's acting all psychotic. He's acting like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like mentally challenged killer kind of thing, where he's finger painting blood onto this paper and then like going all like wacko on it in front of one of his victims that he has like tied up and held hostage. And then the next time that he shows up is when the Sheriff Wyatt, interrogates him, and then he starts talking like a normal person, like he sounded in the Rob Zombie films, the Firefly trilogy. And funny enough, he looks like Otis from the Firefly trilogy, with the long gray hair and everything. Except in this one, it's a wig for some reason. So he has short hair. His character has short hair, but he wears a long gray wig for no reason in this film, unless they made that so he could look like Otis from friggin' House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell. But yeah, that's beyond me. There is another quote too from Richie, the really annoying guy. Everything about Richie can go fuck itself, other than when he's really drunk and he talks about wanting to have sex with one of the girls named Tiffany, and he says that he's going to he's gonna fuck her that night and make 1,000 babies with Tiffany, in the butt, anal babies. So he's gonna make some anal babies, 10,000 of them with Tiffany. That made me laugh. That's super random, out of nowhere, and that actually made me laugh. For an annoying as shit character, I'll take that, just that specific scene, snip it out, and then cut off his character. One of the killers, too, one of the weapons he uses, he has this whip, and at the end of it, it's like a ball and chain, but the ball is a skull, and the skull has like a bunch of spikes come out of it. So when he whips this guy in the face, Kyle, as a matter of fact, gets whipped in the face and just a bunch of spikes right through his face with this ball at the end of this chain. That weapon looked amazing. That weapon was awesome. Like with a skull at the end, perfect weapon. Too bad it was in such a shit film with some like completely shit villains, because that weapon by itself was fantastic. We get the twist reveal that Mr. Walters, the owner of the store, who had this fascination for Sophia for the entire film. These killers that are basically stalking this mountain and have been committing murders for the last 20 years or whatever, are his kids, and had an accident way back in the day where Sheriff Wyatt and a bunch of his friends, when they were kids, chased them all into this house that ended up collapsing and mutilating all their faces. So you have that twist, which is literally kind of thrown in, and then he has Sophia, his favorite, tied up on a chair and forces her to drink an entire bottle of whiskey in 15 minutes because it's 15 minutes to midnight. I mean, that's the first thing he wants to do to torture the chick is force feed whiskey into her, because he's like punishing her for being like a bad party girl because apparently he saw her grow up and she was this innocent like Girl Scout type girl who grew up and turned into this rebellious party teenager. That's his excuse. And then he's pissed off at Sheriff Wyatt, obviously, for chasing his kids and mutilating their faces on New Year's Eve. So that's how this all ties into New Year's Eve. That's when his kids, you know, got crushed by a house or whatever. And then the ending is just so ridiculous. One of the killers gets up and as Sheriff Wyatt is exiting the house, gets up because Sheriff Wyatt and the rest of the cops thought that the killers were dead. Good job on them. Killer gets up and gets one last slay on Sheriff Wyatt, and then everybody's in a panic frenzy, and then credits roll. So you don't figure out what happened to Sheriff Wyatt. Obviously, the film doesn't give a shit in explaining it, or, you know, giving any kind of resolution to one of the only characters in the film that you actually gave a shit about. But yeah, so then you don't even know if he lives or dies. The credits just roll because the film's just like, yeah, screw it, we're done. We're done with everything else. We're just gonna let's make a interpretation ending. Make up your own ending, I guess. Is where they decided to go with Minutes to Midnight. This movie sucks. So that's Minute to Midnight. It's streaming free on Tubi. I do not recommend it, but hey, if you want to check it out, go for it. There's not many slashers that take place on New Year's, so I guess this film is unique in that way. But yeah, not a recommend for me. The cast could do better. The entire cast, that is. Even the kids wanting to party on New Year's, but that's all I got, really. So, subscribe to Morgan the Film Fan if you like to listen to my voice or if you like my film reviews. I'll be back with more soon. Check out the ones on the channel already. And we're off to a new year, so Happy New Year, everyone. Till next review, have a good one. Cheers.